You may have heard that some octopuses have been given names before, but the true depth of their individuality might surprise you. At the Seattle Aquarium too, while not every animal is named, some are. Staff and volunteers name only certain special animals at the facility. The reason aquarium staff choose these animals is, in their view, very clear, because each one fully deserves it, thanks to its unique personality. Yes, surprisingly, octopuses are part of this group too, and once you hear what their personalities are like, this story will make even more sense. First, I'd like to introduce you to Emily Dickinson. She was a massive Pacific octopus weighing about 25 pounds. This name wasn't given to her out of mere sympathy. She earned this poetic name because she was, quite literally, extremely reclusive. She would often squeeze her body into a 3-inch wide gap and vanish. Right next to her was her neighbor, Leisure Suit Larry, who, unlike her, would reach out his arms to anyone who approached and explore everything he could find. With his bold and curious nature, Larry had a personality that was the exact opposite of Emily's. Lucretia McKevil, on the other hand, was quite mischievous when left to her own devices. She would take apart the aquarium's components. The octopus's personalities were so distinct that one of them couldn't escape being named after a character from a well-known universe, Dolores Umbridge. The staff described her as aggressive. Despite being of the exact same species, these octopuses showed no resemblance to one another, not in their physical forms, but deep within their very beings. Hold on to this thought, because the implications are about to become far more profound. Consider this for a moment. An invertebrate, not a mammal raised by a parent or taught whom to trust and whom not to trust. A creature whose evolutionary path diverged from ours roughly 500 million years ago. If your previous understanding confined personalities solely to birds or mammals, prepare to have that belief shattered. Yes, this isn't just surprising. It's profoundly unsettling, challenging our deepest assumptions about life itself. This was precisely the part that caught scientists' attention and deserved to be taken seriously. Biologist Roland Anderson made a simple yet highly significant observation at the Seattle Aquarium. A person feeding the giant Pacific octopus and another person who had previously prodded it with a bristled stick approached the tank. The octopus, recognizing the person feeding it, rose to the surface to greet them, while squirting water at the other person. An aggressive octopus might suddenly grab the test brush held out to it, while a shy one might squirt ink and quickly swim away. This was the precise moment that shattered preconceived notions and demanded serious scientific inquiry. It was then, through meticulous observation, that research unequivocally revealed these behaviors were neither temporary nor random, compelling us to cross a new threshold of understanding. Let's delve into an even more remarkable aspect. Anderson mentions in his research that some octopuses, when they're hungry, turn their bodies upside down to bring their suction cups toward the surface. Anderson compares this behavior to a person jokingly begging for change. Instead of waiting quietly if food doesn't come, they exhibit different reactions. Some octopuses, on the other hand, become agitated and swim in circles around the aquarium. Others try to pry open an oyster that's been sealed with wire, a test set up specifically to observe their behavior. It has been observed that when they try one method to open it and fail, they change tactics and pierce the shell directly. To dismiss this as mere instinct would be a profound disservice to their complex efforts. This isn't just instinct. It's a strategic shift decided and executed on the spot, a true testament to their adaptive intellect. If you're wondering what the scientific basis for all this is, I'd like to mention the research conducted on this topic. That groundbreaking study, which revolutionized our understanding of invertebrates, was conducted in 1993 by psychology professor Jennifer Mather and Roland Anderson. Published in the Journal of Comparative Psychology, the study focused on 44 red octopuses, a smaller relative of the giant Pacific octopus. They repeated 3 different scenarios 7 times over the course of 2 weeks. For each scenario, they observed how the octopuses reacted when startled, when fed, and when exposed to a mild threat. After completing all the stages, it was revealed that the octopuses exhibited 19 distinct behaviors. These were grouped into 3 consistent categories: activity level, avoidance, and reactivity. To give an example, an octopus with a high activity score, a low avoidance score, and a high reactivity score behaved the same way throughout the process, not randomly, extremely consistently. According to the scientific definition, this was a personality. This scoring, I imagine, would similarly apply to Leisure Suit Larry: high activity, high reactivity, and a very tactile approach. Here lies the pivotal question, one that demands our deepest consideration. If we fully recognize and truly accept the profound personalities and intelligence of octopuses, how can we possibly maintain our current attitudes toward them? Does the fact that they don't have a brain like ours, a childhood like ours, or a social structure like ours mean we can do whatever we want to them? I'd like to mention something that might change your answer to this question. In our first video, we discussed just how different an octopus's anatomy is. More than half of its neurons are located in its arms, and each arm can taste, process emotional information, and coordinate movements. You might think they use all these amazing abilities for hunting, yet, in a revelation that sent ripples through the scientific community, Jennifer Mather and Roland Anderson documented a phenomenon almost unheard of, even rarer, among invertebrates: genuine play. They gave some octopuses in an aquarium a medicine bottle and simply observed them. The octopus that brought the object to its beak lost interest for a moment when it realized there was no food inside. But after a while, it began interacting with the bottle, squirting water out of it. It would shoot it out and catch it again, over and over. Its focus had shifted from the question, "What is this object?" to "What can I do with this object?" I'd like to emphasize that the very fact that even some of them play this game is, in itself, a sign of personality. Anderson had a theory about how this evolved. Objectively speaking, this theory had nothing to do with emotion. In our previous video, we discussed how baby octopuses survive in the ocean. Since their mothers have already passed away by the time they enter the deep waters, they encounter life entirely on their own and in isolation. However, very few of them manage to overcome the challenges posed by the deep waters and reach adulthood. During this process, each one is swept away to different locations. Each different environment requires different skills, different prey to hunt, or different predators to evade. If all octopuses behaved in exactly the same way, only those swept to the right place would survive. To put it more simply, their different personalities might be a gift from nature, essential for their survival. I want to explain this clearly. If there were something they developed specifically to survive, every octopus raised in an aquarium would have to develop the same behaviors. Perhaps this is the sweetest part that touches our hearts. I want you to think of Larry, who reaches out to every hand he sees; Emily, who's always disappearing; Lucretia, who's constantly fiddling with the aquarium; and Dolores, famous for her aggressiveness. Every single one of them has built their own identity entirely on their own. From the moment they were born, they didn't have a mother or a pod to guide them. They couldn't explore life alongside their siblings. There was no one to show them what was right or what was dangerous. They inherited nothing. Whatever each of them became, they achieved it entirely on their own. Does this feeling sound familiar to you? Perhaps this is how we can understand them better. I'm sure many of us have accomplished something on our own at some point in our lives. Or perhaps there was a time when we felt alone, and here lies a poignant truth that makes their self-forged identities all the more remarkable. Giant Pacific octopuses live only 3 to 5 years. Imagine every unique personality we've discussed, every strategic mind, every playful spirit, all destined to vanish as quickly as they appeared, leaving an indelible mark in such a brief time. I want you to think about their incredible intelligence, their memory, especially their ability to recognize a face and adopt their own chosen attitude toward it, whether they hold a grudge or act affectionately. Solving problems, finding their way through a maze. Maybe we'll discuss this topic in detail in another video. But it's especially their unique personalities that we're talking about here. They all vanish in a short time. It's a somber truth that the red octopuses, often central to personality studies, possess an even briefer lifespan. They usually barely survive a year. No matter how shy Emily Dickinson's character may be, no matter what kind of mischief lurks within Lucretia McKevil, no matter what drives Leisure Suit Larry to reach out to every hand he sees. No matter how aggressive Dolores may be, all of these are doomed to exist within a body that is destined to vanish just as quickly as it appeared. Researchers who have dedicated themselves to studying these aliens will quietly tell us, before you can fully understand exactly who an octopus is, it vanishes. But immediately afterward, a new octopus with a completely different temperament takes its place in that aquarium. If you're looking for an honest perspective on this very point, there's one more thing worth knowing. We need to evaluate this topic by stepping back a bit from emotional bias. This approach provides an honest perspective by keeping the topic free from emotional bias. Anderson, who has worked with these animals for about 25 years, has been careful to point out that octopuses are not as intelligent as a golden retriever and are probably not even as intelligent as a cat or even a rat. However, he places them far above most fish and many birds. It's important to note, though, that for a vertebrate-less animal, this is a remarkably high ranking. We should also mention that octopuses fail the mirror test, a classic test of animal cognition. An octopus cannot recognize its own reflection, yet, as Anderson's observations indicate, the same animal can recognize and remember different people. It knows which person fed it and not only remembers this even weeks later, but also behaves accordingly. It is precisely this combination failing a measure of self-awareness, while passing a much more challenging test of individual memory and discrimination that has kept researchers like Mather coming back to these animals for decades. Moreover, it's no coincidence that this same mix of strangers and familiar faces is what made millions of people fall in love with a wild octopus on screen in the Netflix documentary, My Octopus Teacher, for which Mather himself served as a scientific advisor. As this video concludes, I urge you to ponder a question that echoes through all of human history. How have we, throughout time, sought to define which animals possess a true mind, which are worthy of the term personality, and which we deem simple or complex enough to matter? Perhaps octopuses were the most complex on this journey. This creature, divergent from our evolutionary history, structure, social instincts, and childhood, stands before us. It appears not merely as a thing, but as someone possessing intelligence, memory, and a temperament that discerns trust. Perhaps the line we've always drawn between creatures and someone was never in the right place to begin with. Who knows? You can probably guess that Emily Dickinson is no longer among us. That the inevitable has happened, just as it does to every octopus. Larry is gone too. Lucretia's mischief has come to an end. Dolores Umbridge is likely meeting the same fate. But no doubt, somewhere in that same building, other octopuses are filling the aquariums they left behind right at this very moment. And inside that aquarium, it is quietly shaping its world and its own personality entirely on its own, without relying on anything else. Because there's no one to teach it, no one for it to imitate. Just as each one has always done and will always do, long after we've stopped watching. And this realization is only just dawning upon us.